Every so often, a book comes along that's more than just a bestseller. It actually changes the way we talk about something important. And today, we're diving into one of those. It's a book about trauma that has absolutely become a cultural phenomenon.
So, this book, The Body Keeps the Score, by Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, came out way back in 2014. And it didn't just sell well. It's basically set up camp on the bestseller lists. Seriously, for over 8 years. I mean, that's just wild for a book on a pretty complex topic, right? It's clear it struck a chord not just with therapists and teachers, but with everybody, completely changing how we talk about trauma and healing.
And this right here, this quote, it just nails the book's core idea. Van der Kolk is basically saying, hey, trauma isn't just a bad memory you can just think your way past. No, he argues it's a physical, neurological thing. It literally rewires your brain and body, and that has real ongoing consequences for how you get through your day-to-day life. So, okay, let's unpack that a bit more. All right, so here's the game plan. We'll start with how this book got so huge. Then we'll dig into its main ideas. The whole body keeps the score thing. After that, we're going to look at a critical perspective, because there's always another side to the story. And we'll wrap it all up with the big takeaway.
All right, first up, a cultural phenomenon. Let's talk about just how massive this book's impact has been. I mean, think about it. Over 8 years on the bestseller list. That's incredible for any book. But for a book about neuroscience and trauma, it just goes to show how much its message resonated with people. It clearly tapped into this huge collective need to make sense of tough experiences. And this isn't just about book sales. Its ideas have totally jumped off the page and into the real world. I mean, it's changed the conversation everywhere. Therapists are thinking differently. Teachers are looking at their students in a new light. It's even changed the way we talk about mental health in our everyday lives.
Okay, so what are these big ideas? What's inside this book that's had such a massive impact? Let's get to the good stuff. Why the body, keeps the score. The whole thing hinges on this big reframing of what trauma even is. The book says it's not really about the story of what happened to you, it's about the imprint it leaves behind. Think of it like a stamp on your nervous system, a mix of feelings, physical sensations, and gut reactions that kind of get stuck on repeat. And how does the body keep the score? Well, according to the book, it shows up as real physical stuff. We're talking chronic back and neck pain, digestive messes like IBS, even autoimmune diseases, migraines, constant fatigue, the list goes on. It's basically your body stuck in fight or flight mode, long after the threat is gone. And here's the brain science behind it, which is pretty fascinating. The book uses this great analogy. You've got a fire alarm in your brain, the amygdala, that gets super sensitive and goes off all the time. Meanwhile, the watchtower, your prefrontal cortex, the part that's supposed to say, hey, calm down, it's just a drill, that part gets quiet. So what happens? Your survival brain basically hijacks your thinking brain. So if the problem is stuck in the body, well, it makes sense that the solution has to involve the body, right? That's why the book is so big on what it calls bottom-up healing. Instead of starting with your thoughts, you start with the body. We're talking about things like yoga and mindfulness, but also really specific therapies like EMDR or somatic experiencing. The whole point of these is to work directly with the body to help it finally learn that it's safe and let go of that old tension. Look, there's no denying this story is powerful, and it's clearly helped a ton of people make sense of their experiences. But for a full picture, we've got to ask, how do these big claims stack up when you put them under a scientific microscope? And that's exactly what some researchers did recently. They took a hard look at the evidence behind the book's biggest ideas, the brain stuff, the treatment stuff. So what did they find? Okay, so one of the biggest debates is this idea that trauma directly damages the brain. That's a huge claim in the book. But the scientific critique says, hold on a second. The research doesn't actually prove that. It's a classic chicken and egg situation. Are the brain differences caused by the trauma, or were those differences there beforehand, making someone more vulnerable to PTSD in the first place? We can't be sure. And the reason for that uncertainty is all about how the research is done. Most of the studies are what's called cross-sectional. It's like taking a single snapshot in time. You see two things happening at once, in this case PTSD and certain brain activity, but you have no way of knowing which one came first. It shows a connection, a correlation, but it can't prove that one thing caused the other. The other big area for debate is treatment. What actually works best? So the book really champions these body-based therapies, but the critics point to massive reviews of all the research, meta-analyses, and they consistently show that the tried and true therapies like cognitive behavioral therapy or CBT still have the strongest, most solid evidence behind them. Now, to be super clear, this isn't saying those body-based therapies don't work or have no value. Not at all. The point the critique makes is that the evidence just isn't there yet to say they're superior to anything else. A lot of the studies are small or have other issues, and even EMDR, which is widely accepted as effective, hasn't been shown to work better than something like CBT. So where does that leave us? We've got this incredibly compelling, validating story over here, and a more cautious, scientific critique over there. How do we make sense of both?
Let's ask a different question. Why is the idea that trauma physically changes your brain so powerful? Why does that resonate with so many of us? Well, part of the answer might be this fascinating psychological quirk called neurorealism.
Neurorealism is basically the idea that if you sprinkle some brain science on an explanation, we're way more likely to believe it's real and true. I mean, it just sounds more solid, doesn't it? When you hear that trauma leaves a physical imprint on the brain, it makes the suffering feel less like a state of mind and more like a broken bone. It's a biological injury, not a personal failing. And wow, that can feel so validating for someone who's struggling.
And really, that's the big takeaway here. This book's story has done so much good. It's made people feel seen, it's cut down on stigma, and it got us all talking about trauma in a new way. That's huge. The real challenge now is to hold on to all that validation and compassion, while also making sure that the actual treatments we use are backed up by the best, most rigorous science we have. So it really leaves us with this final big question, doesn't it? How do we find the right balance between a powerful story that helps us make sense of our lives and the slow, steady, and sometimes less exciting march of science? It's a tough one, but one thing's for sure, this book started a conversation that we definitely need to keep having.